You're listening to the Femcast podcast, the podcast for women who are truly ready to break free from toxic relationship patterns, choose themselves, and become a magnet for the healthy love they deserve. Let's do this. This podcast is listener discretion advised for mature content and coarse language. Whatever. Hey you guys, what is up? Welcome back to the show. I'm so excited and grateful to have you guys here. Welcome if you're new. We're going to have a serious heart-to-heart today, and this is a story that is near and dear to my heart because it's something I did for a very long time, and it probably caused me the most excruciating pain of my life. On the plus side, you know, that's how I basically stumbled across Emotionally Energetics, was a result of this. So had I not gone through this experience, it probably wouldn't have made me the healer and coach that I am today. So for that, I suppose I'm grateful. I am grateful, actually. But what we're talking about really is the emotional cost of pretending that you're okay when you're not. I did this for years. And it is, I can tell you without beyond any doubt that it is the worst form of self-abandonment you can possibly ever do to yourself. And the reason is, you know, we go through an experience, we're going through a time where we're in a great deal of emotional discomfort when we are not okay, whether that is sadness, hurt, pain, grief, anger, frustration, resentment, whatever the feeling is that we're not okay. Maybe, you know, for me, I was moving through some really intense depression. I was moving through heartbreak. I was with my partner for years who, you know, I was coming to terms with the fact that there was, you know, infidelity in our relationship. And I was pretending that it wasn't happening. So we talked a lot about this in the betrayal series, right? You know, where I was pretending it wasn't happening. I was feeling all the hurt, all the pain, all the rage, all the anger that I was feeling, and that I was pretending to be okay in the process. I was pretending that I was fine. I'm good. There's nothing wrong. Nothing's bothering me. I'm fine. I'm perfectly happy. My relationship is as peachy as can be. Yeah, not. You know, when I look back, I realize now what a big shock it was to everybody, you know, when we broke up, because, you know, we'd been together for a while, obviously, and everybody had kind of gotten to know us. And, you know, we were always like everyone's favorite couple. You know, we were always like, everybody always thought we always had it together, and everything was perfect. And we were like this perfect couple, and, you know, and no one really knew what was going on behind the scenes. And that was really mostly my fault, because I was pretending that nothing was going on behind the scenes. I was pretending that everything was perfect, you know, and that's all anybody saw. And obviously he wasn't going to be the one to out what was going on in our situationship. So, you know, he was fine with it. That's what he wanted all along. So why rock the boat, right? Why let anybody know and otherwise? So, you know, I did a really good job. I did a really good job of hiding the pain that I was in. I did a really good job of hiding what was going on behind closed doors. I did a really good job of presenting this image of this picture perfect couple when we were anything but, you know, and, you know, just holding and suppressing so much pain and anger and hurt and heartbreak beneath the surface that it was festering, you know. I didn't know what was happening at the time. For me, I was just coping with the situation as best as I could, the only way I knew how. You know, for me, you know, there was, you know, I always did have trauma around being able to express myself and expressing my emotion. You know, it wasn't always a good thing. You know, I was kind of brought up to believe that, you know, sharing anger, bad. Sharing sadness, bad. Feeling rage, bad, right? And it wasn't because I had, please, like, take this for what it's worth. Like, it's not because I had bad parents. It's because they were traumatized in their own way, and they were just doing the best that they could. And they were holding on to their own repressed emotions. And so they kind of passed that belief down to me, right? And to my sister too, right? And so, so coming into this experience, I did the only thing I knew how to do to keep myself feeling safe, which was, okay, well, I'm going to sweep all this anger, all this rage, all this resentment, all this pain. I'm just going to sweep it under the rug and pretend like it's not there. It's not there. It's not happening. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. Look, see, I'm big. I'm smiling. Everything's great. It wasn't fine. Oh, like there was so much suppressed and so much being bottled up beneath the surface. And I think at one point I started to believe my own denial. Like at first I knew I was in denial. I knew I was faking it. But I think I reached a point where I had like repeatedly told myself that I was fine. And I repeatedly told other people that I was fine for so long that I actually started to mentally believe that I was fine. And I think that's when, and I shared this in previous episodes, I think that's when the night terrors started happening. I don't know if you would call them night terrors, but I would basically wake up in the middle of the night screaming with rage. And it wasn't even like screaming, like, help me, something's wrong screaming. It was like a roar. It was like unleashing all this anger and hate that I was, just storing inside me for so long. And I think that's when the dreams started happening, was when I actually started to believe my own denial, right? I actually put myself in this denial where I started to believe my own shit. I actually started to believe I was gaslighting myself so well. I actually started to believe what I was telling myself, which was, I'm fine. And so a lot of that emotion got buried beneath the surface. A lot of it got stuck in my emotional, spiritual, energetic, even my physical body. And it started to come out in so many ways. Like I was having digestive issues. I was showing symptoms of gluten intolerance. I was having joint pain, skin rashes, digestive problems. I think I said that already. Depression, mood swings, anxieties, insomnia, headaches, just chronic pain and inflammation and discomfort, like all the time. And not to mention the effect on my mental state. Like I remember, I shared this in another episode as well, being so volatile that I could go through my day kind of acting like everything's great, everything's fine, poke me in a grocery store and all hell would break loose, because I was just like, I was so full of rage and anger that it didn't take much to tip the scales and get me to spew out everything that I was holding inside, but in a misaligned and kind of like, what's the word that I'm looking for? Like projecting it on everything else around me other than actually dealing with what was really going on beneath the surface. So, it really delayed my healing in such a powerful way. And it breaks my heart because I still see people do this to this day where they're struggling with something emotionally, and instead of dealing with it and working through it head on, they've gotten stuck into this think positive mentality, which, yes, I do believe thinking positive yields positive results, but not when you're ignoring what's going on with you emotionally. And this is kind of, this is where I kind of want to shake everybody. What you feel emotionally is so much more powerful than anything that you think, say, or believe. Because there is energy in there's so much energy in emotion, right? Emotion is energy in motion, and it is constantly creating on your behalf. And you can do all the mindset work. You can say all the affirmations you want, but if there's something that you're feeling on an emotional level that you're not allowing yourself to move through and experience and process fully, that emotion is getting stuck. And it keeps you in this energetic loop of attracting the same thing over and over again that initially brought you pain to begin with, that initially put that emotion there in the first place. And And so that's where I think I accredit to, like, when I left that relationship, after being, cheated on and lied to, manipulated for so long. And I left that relationship in search of finding the one. And I ended up in more toxic dynamics that I even knew what to do with, right? It was because I hadn't processed all of that emotion on the inside yet. The funny thing about emotion is that, we think it's going to take a long time to move through, but it actually doesn't. Not when you let it. Like when you can surrender to it and just allow it to be there and have a good cry and feel it and intensify it and allow it to just become its own, like do its thing, right? Serve its purpose, which is usually to give you a message on, how it's asking you to evolve. Once you can let it kind of do that, it moves through pretty quick, and then you can move on to joy or whatever else you want to feel, But the problem is we keep trapping these inside of us. And we don't realize how much that is mucking up our energetic signature, not to mention the wound that we're creating in ourselves internally by saying, I don't care about your pain. Your pain, your anger, your discomfort means nothing to me. I'm going to ignore it and pretend that it's not there. Like, would you ever say that to a child who was crying? Would you ever tell a crying child, I don't care that you're crying. I don't care that you're sad. I don't care that you're frustrated. I just want to go and have a good time. And I don't understand why you can't let me do that right now. We would never say that to a child. And yet we're saying that to ourselves constantly when we ignore our emotional state and try to present a version of ourselves that is seemingly fine when we are not fine. That's not to say that we need to verbal spew our dirty laundry onto anybody who will listen, but it does mean that we get to make the space to acknowledge our own pain, our own sadness, our own emotional experience, and whatever it is that we're trying to move through. Now, as I said, a lot of this was created in that relationship, but even in the relationships after, even in the toxic relationship dynamics that I attracted after that relationship ended, I was still trying to look fine when I wasn't. I was still trying to look unbothered. I was still trying to look cool, not asking for too much, not letting not letting on how much I actually like them, trying to pretend I really don't care that much, even though I really did. Trying to pretend that I was okay with situationships when really what I wanted was a real solid relationship. Trying to pretend that I was this what's it called? A healthy attachment style versus the anxious, hot mess attachment style that I actually was on the inside. But I was pretending and faking my way to feeling and looking confident and unbothered, and this whole black cat energy bullshit that I hear people talk about all the time. All of this is really relevant stuff, but because the reality is, if you want to attract a healthy relationship, you have to be able to embody a healthy attachment style, or a secure attachment style. But that's not something that you can fake. That is something that you cultivate, and you cultivate a healthy attachment style by first looking at, why is it that I have this anxious or avoidant or even anxious avoidant attachment style? Like, what's going on beneath the surface? What is the fear? What is the emotion? What is the pain that I'm not acknowledging that is making me behave and feel this anxious or avoidant type of behavior or response in a relationship, right? Well, I thought you guys were going to come right back to it, but before we do, I really want you to hear this. A few years ago, I found myself sobbing on the bathroom floor, not over one specific heartbreak, but all of them. Every time I thought to myself, this is it, this is the one, and I ended up ghosted, breadcrumbed, and tossed aside, while I would watch them give everything that I was begging for to someone else. They'd go out on real dates. He'd introduce her to his friends. They would take amazing trips together, post all their photos on Instagram like it was a love story. Even his Facebook status would be updated to in a relationship. Meanwhile, I was still a secret. And what hurt most out of all of this is that I started to believe it was me, that I was the problem, that there was something about me that was unlovable, that they were ashamed of, that they didn't want to be seen with. And I truly believe that if I could just change myself in some way, if I could be prettier, thinner, less emotional, more successful or something, then maybe, just maybe, I'd finally be chosen. But that night, something cracked open. I realized I was never going to feel chosen until I finally chose myself first. This was the beginning of my reclamation. This was the moment that I stopped trying to convince people to love me. The moment that I stopped outsourcing my worth to people who couldn't see me. The moment that I stopped pretending that I was okay, settling for breadcrumbs so I can seem cool and unbothered, when really I was starving for real, soul-deep connection. It didn't happen overnight, but that moment became the sacred turning point, the place where I finally stopped waiting to be saved and started rising as the woman I was always meant to be. I started peeling back the layers of who I thought I had to be, and I began remembering the version of me who never had to beg to be chosen or shapeshift to be loved. That's what this work is about. That's what the Sacred Reclamation Intensive is about. And now I invite you into yours. The Sacred Reclamation Intensive is a 90-minute private session where we'll use my signature sacred reclamation method to release emotional and energetic blocks that are keeping you stuck in painful patterns in love, confidence, and self-worth. We go deep into the body, into the energy, into the story that you've been carrying for years, and clear it at the root. You'll walk away feeling lighter, clearer, more magnetic to everything aligned with your truth. Love, abundance, inner peace, success. This is not a quick fix. This is a sacred portal. So if you're done chasing, performing, or hiding just to be loved, if you're ready to stop settling and start attracting, click the link in the show notes and book your Sacred Reclamation Intensive now and reclaim the version of you that never had to beg to be chosen. But fair warning, authentic connections, aligned opportunities, and major breakthroughs in love, money, and purpose are inevitable. All right, that's enough. Now back to today's episode. Trying to deny our pain, trying to deny what it is that we're feeling, trying to create this inauthentic version of ourselves, it's so hurtful, like I said, to our own soul, because it's the worst form of self-rejection. We're basically saying, I don't care what your emotional experience or what your emotional needs are. I give two flying fucks. I just want to go out here and have a good time and pretend that I'm the cool chick and look like I'm unbothered and uncomplicated and, really just be easy to be around and be easy to love and easy to like so that I can, find somebody who will actually want to be with me. Right. And obviously we're talking specifically about relationship now, but this can happen in so many, we can hide our emotional experience and pretend to be fine in so many ways. And I know sometimes we have to, we go to work, we kind of have to act like we're okay when we're not. Nobody's going to come to the Monday morning kickoff call for the week and bawl all over their teammates that, their relationship fell apart on the weekends, but you do get to prioritize carving out that time, making that time for yourself to feel whatever is coming up for you emotionally and allow space for that to evolve, to move through you, and to help you evolve through the process. Pain, discomfort, any kind of emotion is always helping us in our evolution. And so when we make space for it and we make time for it and we allow it to be there and just surrender to it and not try and force anything and just let it do its thing, we move through it much more quickly. And then we can get on to feeling the things that we actually do want to feel and that actually feel good to feel, right? And we can integrate the lessons that those experiences and those emotions were trying to teach us. But when we avoid to do those things, it is so hurtful to us at a soul level. We end up getting that emotional pain stuck in our body, in our emotional body, in our spiritual body, in our physical body, in our mental body. It completely distorts your energetic signature. And now what you're manifesting, you're not manifesting anything that you want. You're manifesting everything that you don't want, no matter how hard you try, no matter how many affirmations you repeat, no matter how many times you write in your fucking journal or you vision boards you create, you keep attracting more of what you don't want. And that's because you're literally ignoring your path to healing. Whenever we manifest, and this is a hard lesson I've had to learn. Whenever we manifest or set our intention to something, universe is like, okay, great. I can make that happen for you. But first, I would like you to move through all of these reasons and beliefs and traumas that are keeping you from really aligning with what it is that you want energetically. So that's when the work really begins. but we avoid the work and we just keep saying affirmations and we wonder why the thing isn't coming into fruition. It's because all of the challenges that are being presented to us, all of the triggers that we're avoiding, all of the heartbreak that we're not moving through and processing, all of the patterns that we're refusing to look at, those are the keys to getting us to where we want to be. The universe is saying, here's your homework. If you want that relationship, if you want that job, if you want that income, if you want that home, if you want that lifestyle, if you want that whatever it is, this is your homework to get there. And yet we keep trying to bypass it and ignore it and avoid it by more affirmations, more meditations, more vision boards. That is only just the tip of the iceberg. There is a whole massive chunk of ice below all of that needs to be addressed first before we can get to that. And so, when, we delay our healing, we delay bringing in what it is that we truly want, what we truly desire, what would truly bring us joy. We get stuck in this energy. Sorry, I hit my mic. We get stuck in this crazy energetic limbo that you can be stuck in for quite a long time. It's like a spiritual tug of war is happening, where there's this emotional side of you that's saying, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. I need you to tend to me. And then there's the other side. No, I don't want to look at you. I don't want to look at you. I just want to manifest good shit, and they're like constantly fighting. And so you end up being stuck in the middle between these two competing energies. And this is why oftentimes life just does not move, Life just does not move, and we end up stuck and at the stalemate where we can't move forward. We can't go back. We're just in limbo. And the key to breaking out of this pattern is to look at the pain that we've been avoiding and to actually sit with maybe I'm not okay. Maybe there's something that I need to look at here. And I do believe that we need to change the conversation. Like I remember, there's always this expectation of, when somebody asks you, hey, how you doing? Right? You always have to be polite and say, I'm good. How are you? And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of this. I'm guilty of this all the fucking time. But how great would it be to be able to say, you know what? I'm not having my best day today. And here's why. But also not emotionally burden everybody around us, just to be able to be honest, to share about what we're going through and what we're experiencing and what we're moving through without, emotionally burdening the other person, but also not hiding what it is we're truly feeling or moving through and just letting our human side shine and be seen. Like, how amazing would that be? Like, if we could actually do that as a culture and not see that as a bad thing or a toxic thing or a negative thing, or, just to acknowledge what might be going on for us on the inside, right? And not making it mean anything about us or mean anything about what it is that we're capable of. Just being able to hey, I'm not having one of my best days. Here's why. Or, you know what, I am feeling a little down or depressed today, or I am moving something that's really difficult right now. So taking the time and space to do that. I know I've tried to do that more consciously with my relationships in the last few years, really being mindful about when they ask me, how are you doing? And I say, you know what, not the best of days, kind of, moving through this, that, and what the other, but, moving through it okay, it's teaching me something, or giving a positive perspective on it, because I do believe whenever we move through difficult emotions, there is a positive takeaway from it. Even though it doesn't feel like it in the moment, there's always a positive takeaway. And so trying to see it from that perspective can sometimes be very helpful too, but not to give you an excuse to go and rush out of it. Like, experience the feeling, experience what it is that's coming up. So going back to the example that I was sharing before I went on that tangent, right? So I was, I didn't want to deal with the pain. I just wanted to have a good time. I just wanted to find that next person. I was trying to look really cool and unbothered, this whole black cat energy, right? Showing up and being very uncomplicated and as easy to be with as possible. Just because I wanted to find my person, right? I wanted to find the person who would want to be there for me and who would want to be with the hot mess that was going on, the flailing ball of anxiety that I was really hiding on the inside. Like, who would want to be with that? So I, almost stepped into character, right? I'm cool. I'm calm. I'm, cool as a cucumber, not very uncomplicated. Don't worry. I'm good with friends with benefits. I'm good with situationships. But deep down inside, knowing that there was a part of me that's like, maybe this is going to be the day that, he actually just says that he just wants to be with me and we can just like let this whole situationship thing like go away. Right. Total lie. Never happened, by the way. Never, never, never happened. Make sure that when you're in a relationship, you're both in it for the same thing. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So, obviously, I kept, I kept holding on to all this emotional discomfort. I would never, I kept attracting these toxic relationships. And I realized that all of the relationships that I was attracting were emotionally available because they were mirroring back to me how emotionally available I was for myself. So if you're in a cycle of holding on to a lot of negative emotion that, won't go away, it just kind of sits there and festers beneath the surface constantly, where you feel like the minute somebody bumps into you in a grocery store, that is a cry of war, right? Or, you're constantly having to bite your tongue in relationship and show up as an inauthentic version of yourself, pretending to be cool when you're not, to pretend to be okay with situationships when you're really not, pretending that, their breadcrumbs don't really bother you all that much because you're cool and uncomplicated and you're easy to be with, when it's all fucking bullshit. And then wondering why you keep attracting all these emotionally unavailable partners. Stop and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now that I'm avoiding? And what would it look like to give that emotion some space to be and to breathe? And, what advice or healing or transformation might that emotion be trying to be the catalyst for in my life? And how can I apply what it's trying to teach me or show me? Because that really is the magic. And when you can move through layer by layer all the emotions that you've been holding on to and heal all those parts of you that feel like you've completely rejected and abandoned them because you didn't want to deal with what was going on the inside, that's when life starts to flow in your direction. And that's when things start to move. And this is a process, and it does happen one layer at a time. And of course, I'm always here to support you. Please go ahead and book an intensive. The link for all that is down below. But this is the process, is moving through all these little abandoned parts of you that are just screaming and vying for your attention. Allowing them to be seen and heard and felt and acknowledged and validated, and to really offer a new perspective on who you're meant to be in the world and how you're being called to evolve. Because that's ultimately, like I said, what our emotions are trying to do. So instead of resisting your emotions, surrender to them. Instead of pretending that you're okay all the time, just be honest that you're not okay. At least with yourself. At least if you can be honest with yourself first, and maybe somebody that you feel close to, if you can at least do that, just do that part, you're on your way. Because now you've stopped shaming yourself, you stopped rejecting yourself, and you're ready to listen to yourself. And that is often the hardest part. So take that for what it's worth. Let me know if this resonates wherever you're seeing this in the comments below, or reply to me in an email, whatever floats your boat. You can also just DM me at the Femcast on Instagram. I always love to get DMs from you guys. So let me know how this resonated. And of course, please, if you love this episode, please leave a positive rating or review on Spotify or iTunes or wherever you're seeing this. Until next time, you guys, massive love.